Morning, everyone. While there's no reselling on or anything, I'm just trying to do some videos to try and get myself out there to get the numbers so that when I can resell again after isolation, I might be able to have a little help with YouTube. I don't know how good that's going to be for me. I'm older, I'm 58, and it's like teaching a dog, an old dog, new tricks. Some say you can't do it, some say you can. So anyway, over the years I've been asked a lot of questions from foreigners and everything about Australia. I come from a long line of Australians, so I can only answer all these questions. Answers for the questions come from me. I just tell it as it is. What I know, I'll say. Um, some people may disagree with some topics I'm on, some may not. I'm just going to keep it basic. I'm not politically correct. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just going to say it as I see it, as this is my country. So here we go. So here's Australia. It's a big country, huge country, but we have a lot less population than most countries. I mean, here's Queensland, where I actually live in Queensland. Now, all of England can fit in that little state there. So, but in saying that, England have a lot more population than we do. So now you get the idea. You've got to realise that most of the people in Australia live around the coastline. Not a lot of people here. Alice Springs is quite popular, but it's a born and bred place. Not a lot of people move there from over here to over there unless it's a job related or they want a new way of life. I've been to Alice Springs. I've been very fortunate in my life. I've been all over Australia except Perth. So, but everywhere else I have been, as I grew up with a family that we travelled Australia quite often. Plus, my first marriage, I was married to an Air Forceman and we travelled around. So, lived in most of these places. So Alice Springs, as a child, it was dusty, but and it was dry. It was very dry when we were out there, and that can happen. There is a river that runs through Alice Springs, but a lot of the times that river sadly is dry. But I do remember, even as a child, the people in Alice Springs were just lovely. So there you go. Then there's Ayers Rock, which is now called Uluru. When I climbed Ayers Rock, I was a child, and that's what it was called. Now it is called Uluru, and you can't climb it anymore. So that's okay. Look it up. It's a beautiful natural rock. It is not like a rock you find in your backyard. It stretches kilometres, miles, if you're in the country that uses the mile system. So, beautiful. Look that up. Worth scrolling around and looking at the pictures because it is a beautiful place. And the sun, at the different times of the day, changes the rock colour. We call it a rock. A lot would call it a suburb, but it is a rock. It is a big rock foundation that has come out of the ground, and it is just massive. And I was fortunate as a child to climb it twice. It's no easy task to climb it, I might add, but I was fortunate enough to do it twice. So there we have it. So not a lot of people live in the middle here. Most of the population is around the coastline. So to the next photo, this is where I live, right there. I live between Toowoomba and Brisbane, but not far from the coastline. We have a beautiful coastline and very fortunate with our beaches. Unfortunately, right now we're not doing too good because with coronavirus hanging around all our heads now, all our beaches are closed. They are closed on the Queensland coastline because I live in Queensland. I'm not 100% sure if the other beaches of Australia are closed. Ours sadly are closed. We really like going for walks along the beach, and we're really missing that. We can't do it at the moment. Australia was discovered on record in 1770 by a guy called Captain James Cook. A lot of people have their different outtakes on this. I've always wondered how can it be discovered when it was already lived on. It was already occupied by the Australian Aborigines. So I don't know how. I always thought something had to be discovered that no man had walked on before. Apparently, that must not be true. So, because the Aborigines were here many years before Captain James Cook came. Also, there is another story that in the 1600s, a Dutch guy came and discovered Australia first, but I do believe he did not step foot on Australia, so on the Australian soil, so he didn't actually go down in record as discovering it. Now, I wasn't around back then, so this is just what the storybooks say. I have no proof. I don't think anyone really has any proof, but that's what they're saying. 1600, a Dutch guy came and floated past, but he didn't name Australia. So then we have this guy who came in 1770 and he stepped foot on Australia's soil in New South Wales in Australia. His name is Captain James Cook and he planted the flag. So apparently then he must have went back and all the criminals that they had in England, which were overflowing at the time, because you've got to realise the poor buggers that were hungry and stole a loaf of bread got thrown in jail. But at the end of the day, they were pretty much rewarded in the end because they threw them all on the boats, all the criminals, and sent them over here to what we say is paradise. Now, before I go any further and before any English people jump up and down, I'm actually married to a POM now. This is my second marriage, and we've now been married 8 years. And he says it himself. He jokes and said, you know, England would have been better off if they kept the criminals over there and brought the Englishmen over here. Because we do have beautiful beaches and we do have extraordinary weather. My husband, in the 15 years he's lived in Australia, has never put a sweater on or a jacket. And he tells us the stories of him, you know, he had that many sweaters on just to go to school in the snow and different way of life. So, yes, he is the one that says that story about it should have been in reverse. The convicts should have stayed over there and the English people come here. So he's a pom, he's allowed to tell that story, and I'm just repeating it. So that's the history that is in the books of today. These are the Aborigines that are still out. A lot of them still live out in the middle of Australia. They like to do their own thing. They are mild-mannered, natured, beautiful people, and they don't ask for a lot. And I'm talking about the real Aborigines, the ones that live out in the middle of Australia and mind their own business. As a child, as I said, I travelled around. We stopped at a lot of campsites that were with the Aborigine, and they do have their own language. Unfortunately, sorry, I don't know what it's called. But the elders, which are the older of the group, they were always very pleasant to us white people that came along. I mean, it was only my mother and father and myself, and you come across a group of in a camp, and most of them were men, and they were lovely. I have to say, my experience of them, the real Aborigines, the real live off the land Aborigines were beautiful, beautiful people. These are our koalas. They're beautiful, and a lot of people think they are bears. They aren't bears. They are not called koala bears like the majority of the world calls them. They don't even come from the bear family. They are marsupials. They're cute, loving, but they can get pretty pissed off. And they do have really, really big claws. In our fires, they suffered, and you would see pictures, and you may have across the world, of the fireys or the volunteers giving them water out of a bottle. They are very trusting in a situation like that, and they are beautiful. But if you come across them and it's mating season and you want to grab one, you're pretty much going to lose the battle there. They will claw the crap out of you. But the ones in the zoo and that you can go up and hold, for $20 or whatever it is these days, and get your photo done, absolutely beautiful. They aren't in every tree in Australia. They are dwindling. I am 58 years old, and I've probably seen, in all my travels as a child going around Australia, I've probably seen 20 wild koalas. Never approached them, but I can remember one time, though, there was a koala, and it was in the middle of the road, and my dad did go and get it, and because we were out in the middle of nowhere where we had road trains. These are these massive trucks. Well, they can't stop, so, Dad went and got this koala and picked him up and went and took him to the tree. And he actually looked at him and as if he was so pissed off because Dad had put him fair up in the tree and it wasn't the tree he wanted because he made they make a terrible noise. He didn't attack Dad, but he sure as hell gave him a piece of his mind. He carried on for ages and then crawled back down and went to the next tree and went up. So, yeah, apparently Dad put him on a completely different tree. They have a certain gum tree that they go to, and that's it. But the noise they make is horrendous. It's a terrible noise. These are cute, fluffy, beautiful animals, and the noise they make is, oh my God, it's out of this world. You'd think it was some horrendous animal coming out, and it's just this tiny, fluffy little koala. They don't make that noise very often. They make it when they're pissed off, and they make it when they're in their mating season. So there you go. That's the koala. The kangaroo. Now, a lot of people think these are jumping around, hopping around all our suburbs. Well, I've never seen one in my suburb, and I've never seen one in my suburb no matter where I have lived in Australia. There are a lot of them. I'll tell you where a lot of them, when you live in a city as I do and down the eastern coast, the majority of the kangaroos will hang around the golf courses. Golf courses, for some reason, attract the kangaroos. They're a lazy animal. No, they won't come up and attack you like people think they do. But once again, they're a wild animal, and you don't just walk up to any wild animal. Or they will get pissed off. So, but they hang around the golf courses. The golf courses have beautiful green grass. They're lush all year round. You know, some people might think they're a dumb animal, but to me, you know, they're pretty much smart because, of course, they're going to hang around there. They've got the green grass and everything all year round. We have a lot of drought problems here in Australia, and you never see a golf course go in drought. So they're pretty smart as far as I'm concerned. Once again, beautiful, meek, mild. You will see videos out there that the big buck kangaroos, they're a big red kangaroo, and they can stand up to nearly 8 feet tall. They're built like something on steroids. And they will stand up to you if threatened. And once again, if it's mating season. I don't know why everyone gets so cranky when it's mating season, but apparently they do. So that is the kangaroo. We have a grey kangaroo, we have a red kangaroo, and we have a rock wallaby kangaroo. And I do believe, and I could be wrong, but there's like a mouse kangaroo. It's a tiny little thing. There is a name for it, and I can't think of it. And it's the size, a little bit bigger than a mouse, like a rat, but it jumps around, and it's got the feet of a kangaroo. Weirdest animal, probably interbred somewhere down the line. Okay, let's get on to something a little bit up everybody's alley with the alcohol, which I'm sure is getting drunk a lot now while everyone's in isolation. Everyone thinks that the Foster's the Bee's Knees Australian beer because it's got the red kangaroo on it, it's got the stars, and it may have been years ago. I drink beer, and have never had a fight. Well, I have, and I don't like it. My opinion only. Please, Foster Beer Company, don't get on my bandwagon. I don't like it. I don't drink it. I actually drink an imported company. I think it's called Hans Light. I think that's an imported thing. I'm not going to put anything in my mouth I don't like. Take that any way you want. So anyway, Foster's, it was a very big an Australian beer, but we have worldwide beer now. So back in the day, yes, it will always be an Australian beer, but it's not high on the list. Well, I don't believe it is. I know a lot of people, and I don't know anyone that actually drinks Foster's now. But that's it. Another one is the 4X Gold. 4X Gold. This is a Queensland brand, also an Australian lager. I don't drink that either. It's my state that it's made in, Queensland, Australia. I have had it. I can't say I hate it. It's just not for me. So, but my brother won't drink any other, and he likes his drink, I can assure you. So there you go. They're the two main beers. The rest are imported. We do have a Tooheys, and I believe that's still around. That's still quite popular, as popular as the 4X and the Fosters. I believe that is an Australian beer. What state it's made, I honestly can't say. This one is made in Queensland. This one in Victoria. Tui's, I honestly, I couldn't tell you. Now for the main questions I get. Oh my God, how many spiders and snakes have you got in Australia? Oh my God, how many people do you know that have been killed by them? How many people have you been known that have been bitten by them? Guess what? I've known 0. The redback, there was a song out. It was the redback on the toilet seat. It was back in many, many years ago. I was a kid. We had what we called an outside toilet. Long time ago, going back 55 years ago. And redbacks used to sit underneath the toilet seat. This is the story of the day. This is what we grew up with. This is the stories that we were told. And yeah, sometimes people apparently did get their butt bitten by a redback. And apparently back in 80 years ago, I guess, they did die. There wasn't a syrup for them. They didn't know how to cure it. So I guess people did die. Do people die of the redback spider now? No, they don't. As I said, I have seen the redback. Yes, I have come across it over my years. I've seen them. They're a hider. They're a sneaky little friggin' thing. They'll get in your shoe. They'll get under a chair outside. They are hiders. And when you come into their area, they will attack. Now, I have never been bitten by one. And I have not known anyone to be bitten by one. This, on the other hand, is a funnel web. Now, it was mostly hung around New South Wales. I have heard there are reports that it has gone off to other states of Australia now. But I can remember growing up, and I used to work in Sydney, New South Wales, and I stayed with an auntie, and she had a swimming pool. And